Hello everyone, this is Wasim from Edureka and I welcome you all to this session in which I'm going to talk about Python Itertools. So let's take a look at the agenda for this session. So I'm going to begin with what exactly are iterables and iterators, and then I'm going to discuss what Python Itertools is and what it is used for. After that, we'll be discussing a bunch of methods or tools that we have in Python Itertools with examples. So I hope you guys are clear with the agenda. And if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe to Edureka for more exciting tutorials and press the bell icon to get the latest updates on Edureka. And if you are looking for a certification program, the link is given in the description box below. Go check it out, guys. So now, without any further ado, let's begin our session, guys. So to explain iterators and iterables, let me just show you a quick example on Jupyter Notebook. And if you're not familiar with iterators, we have a full tutorial on our YouTube channel that you can go and check out. I'll give you a link in the comments section, guys, so don't worry. And if you have any questions during the session, you can just mention them in the comment section below and we'll be happy to get back to you. So now back to the session, guys. I was telling you about the iterators and iterables. Let's say I have a sequence which is basically nothing but a list. So this I can treat it as an iterable because I'll be able to make an iterator object from it. So now when I say iterator object, what exactly it is, right? So I create an object, call the item method, pass my iterable there, and I've created an iterator object. So now if I want to iterate through something, I'll have to, traverse through each and every element of that particular object. So in my iterator object right here, I have a list, which is a sequence. So I have like the 6 elements in my list, which is in the iterator object that I can traverse through. Now for traversal, we have a method which is known as next method. So I pass my object in next, and every time I execute this method, I will have the next element in my object. And as soon as it reaches the end or the end of the iterator, it will stop the iteration. And basically you should mention this statement whenever you're using this next. All right, so this is one way to do it, but there's another way. Just restart and run all the cells. So now we have this iterator object. Now to traverse through it, what I can do is I can use a for loop, guys, or any loop for that matter. So for I in B, I will print I. So whatever values I have in my iterator, I'm traversing it through the iterator using the for loop. So now, guys, let me just tell you quickly what exactly is a Python Itertools. So Python Itertools is nothing but it's an inbuilt module that we have in Python, and it basically gives you all these tools and methods to create iterators. So now when I say you will create iterators, you just have to enter a few parameters with the iterable, and you'll be given with an iterator that you can traverse through using either next or a for loop. So we're gonna talk about all these tools and methods that we have in Itertools, and the tools or the methods can be divided into subcategories. Let's say there are 3 categories. Even if you check out the official documentation of Itertools, you will find they have segregated these all methods into 3 categories, which is infinite iterators. They have iterators that you can terminate with certain parameters. Then the next category is combinations. All right, so we'll begin with the infinite iterators. So to give you a perspective what exactly is an infinite iterator, an infinite iterator will go on forever until you give it a condition where you can just stop it. So let's begin, guys. So first of all, what I'll do, okay, I'll write infinite iterators here. Now from Itertools, I will import everything. Yeah. So for infinite iterators, there are basically 3 of them. First one is count, then we have cycle and repeat, guys. Now we'll begin with count, guys. So for using count has 2 parameters. There is a start and a step, and the iterator will return evenly spaced values starting from the start. Just give you a perspective of how we are going to use it. We will have a start operator. So let's say I want to start from 0, and then there'll be a step. All right, guys. So this is an infinite iterator. So we're gonna use it with termination condition. So for I in A, let's say if count, let's write it as d is equal to 1. So if d is greater than, let's say, 10, we will break, and else we will print I. And guys, if you're not familiar with how we use loops in Python, we also have a tutorial on loops. It's very easy, guys. I'll just quickly explain the code after I write it. And d plus is equal to 1. So first I'll explain you the code. So I have this variable d, which I have assigned value 1. So when we enter the loop, which is a for loop, so for every value I in a, so a is our iterator. So the first value is I. First value for I is equal to 0. Second one will be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, and 18. So now we have two more conditions here. So if d is greater than 10, which means whenever the value of d becomes 11, the loop will break. So we have only 10 values in the output here. That's why. So if I remove this condition, the loop will go on forever because this is an infinite iterator. So for that purpose, we are using this. Now what I'll do here is, so let's say a is equal to, now we're going to use the other ones. Let's say cycle. So what exactly is cycle used for? Cycle basically returns a copy of elements from the iterable, and it only takes iterable as the parameter. So before we begin, okay, so I'll just write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes. All right. So we have an iterator. Write the code and go. So as you can see, I have declared my iterator over here, passed the parameter, which is an iterable. And I told you iterable can be any collection where we can, create an iterator from. There's a list, which can be an iterator. There's strings. So we're going to stick to list for this session. And again, as soon as the counter variable, which is basically d over here, reaches 11, it breaks from the loop. So as you can see in the output, we have values like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then again, we are beginning from 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So why is this happening? For every time the element in the iterator is returned in the output, it is being copied in somewhere else. And every time the iterator is exhausted, the values are coming from the copied iterator. So that is how it's happening. And this is also an infinite iterator. So if I remove this condition, it's going to go on forever. Next one now here is a repeat, guys. So let's create a repeat, and let's say I want to repeat 10. All right. So for I in a, print 10. Now since I have not given how many times I want the repetitions, I'm gonna have to use the loop like I have here. But if I give the values, let's say 3, so the values will only repeat for 3 times. And if I remove this, copy the other code, so it will go on forever until I give it a break statement or stop the iteration somehow. All right. So these are the infinite iterators that we have in Python Itertools. So next up, we are going to move on for the next one, or the next category, where we have Itertools that will terminate on the shortest input sequence. You can check them out on the official documentation as well. So we're going to begin with accumulate, guys. So what exactly is accumulate used for? It returns an accumulated sum of the elements in the iterable, and it takes two arguments, an iterable and a function. So I'll just quickly tell you how we are going to do this. Let's say we have an iterable 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and now what I want is I want to create an iterable object or iterator. I'll create an iterator using accumulate, where I will pass my iterable, and one more thing, I have to import operator. Yes. And here, if I don't mention anything, the default function will be an addition function. So I'll just quickly tell you guys, for I in B, we print I. Yes. So now observe this output carefully, guys. So the first value is 1, but the next value is 3. How come? We are adding these two values for the second one. And now we have this 3, and we are adding this to the next one, which is 6, and so on. So this is how accumulate is used. So by default, the argument function would be addition. Now using operator, I can specify different functions. So there is multiplication. So instead of adding these two values in the second one, we are going to multiply it. And similarly, after multiplication, there are so many other, like we have XOR. So yeah, this is how we can use accumulate, guys. So let's talk about the next function that we have, which is chain, guys. Now to understand chain functions, we're going to have to take two iterables, because that's how chain works. It basically chains the two iterables together and only takes the iterables as arguments. So let's say we have a is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and b is equal to 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Yeah. So now I can create an iterator using chain, pass a and b over here, and now okay, one second guys, I think I made a mistake. So now you can see guys, I have chained the elements of both the iterables into one. So that's how I'm getting all these values inside one iterator. And that's how we use the chain method for basically, combining two or others. I mean, there are other, I can specify probably one more iterable. Yes. So it doesn't really mean that you can only chain two iterables together. You can chain as many as you want. After that, we have compress, guys. So compress has two parameters, selectors and iterable. And for each value that is false in the selector, the element in the iterable will be eliminated. So let me just explain it with the example. So I have this iterable, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now I have one more variable, which is going to have 4 or 5 values again. Now I will create an iterator using compress, and over here I'll pass a and selector, right? Complex first argument must be a string or a number, not list. Now wait a second guys, I think we are making a mistake here. So there was a simple mistake that we were making. Instead of compress, we were writing complex. That's why we were getting this error. So for I in B, okay, one second guys, we'll print I. So now look at the output guys, we have 1, 3 and 5. Why, I'll tell you. So we have an iterable, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are the values, and then there is a selector. So what exactly is the selector? So for each value that is false in our selector, so we have these values which are true for 1 and 0 is for false. So for every value that is false, the element from the iterable is eliminated. So let's say if I replace it with 1. Now what will happen is I will have 2 in my output as well. So that is how we use the compress method guys. Now let's take a look at the next method that we have, which is drop while. So for drop while, it's quite simple guys. All right. So there'll be a function or a predicate which is mentioned in the official documentation as well. So that is involved. For drop while, we will have two parameters. There will be a predicate, a function that I've already told you, and the output will be starting when the function returns false for the first time. So let's write, this is going to be our iterable from 0 to 100. The step is let's say 5. Yes. Now create an iterator with the drop while, and there'll be function. So lambda function will use. So for every value that is greater than 20, or wait, every value that is less than 20 from A. And now for I in B, print I. So we have all these values guys. So now the output is decided every time, or it's going to start from the first time the function returns false. So the function, the lambda function, is false for the value, for the very first value, which starts from 20. And that's how drop while is used, guys. So even when the function is returning false, the value is still there in the iterator. Now coming on to the function which is filter false, guys. So it has two parameters, and the function returns only those values in the iterable where the function returns false. Now the only difference is it will start from the very first value where it's returning false. It will wait for the values to be false in the iterator. But with filter false, for every value that is false, it's going to return it. So let's call filter false. All right, we'll get b is equal to filter false, and we'll use the same lambda function. Let's say x is less than 20 for a. For I in b, we print I. So we're getting the same values that we got in drop while, because they're basically doing the same thing. They're eliminating the values based on the functions, and those functions you can pass them in the parameters. So that is how it's quite easy, guys. There's nothing too complicated with these methods. And after that we have islice. So islice takes 4 parameters and returns those values in the iterable that fall under the start stop parameter with the relevant step. Okay, so we'll take this iterable from 0 to 100 only. So we'll start with taking another parameter, calling islice. Now, so the first parameter is your iterable. Then you provide start. So we're going to start with the 0 index, go until, let's say, 15th index, and the step I want is 3, right? So when I iterate through this iterator, I will have the values 0, 15, 30, 45, and 60. What is happening over here is it's starting from 0th index. So the value at 0 index is 0, of course, and then it's going until the 15th index. So it is starting from the 0th index and going until the 15th, which is at 75, I guess. The index value at 75 will be 15th. Now the step is 3. So the first value is 0, and then 1, 2, 3, and then again 1, 2, 3. After this we have 45, and then we have 60. Now after 60, the third step would be 75, but since we have only taken it until 15, the value is not included. So if I make it 16, let's say, we will have 75 as well in the output. So that is how islice works. And now let's talk about the next method that we have, which is star map. So it basically takes 2 parameters, which is going to be a predicate, or you can call it as a function, and a tuple list. So the output is obtained according to the result of the predicate on the iterable. Now, first we will take an iterable, which is a tuple list. So let's have a few values here, and we're going to have 4 values. So let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I want to tell you guys, I'm taking all these simple values inside all these functions because I don't want to complicate it too much. But what you can do is take it up as a challenge or an exercise and try to make sense of it using real life examples. And if that you can figure out how you're going to use Itertools for that purpose, so that's going to solve a lot of problems for you while you're trying to work with iterators or functions in general. So now if you're going to use a star map, we will have a function, and then we'll have to pass the parameter. Now, and then we'll have to pass the parameter for our iterable. So I'll have a lambda function again, guys. And okay, so we're gonna have 2 values because now I only want x. Now for I in a or b, I want to print I. So look at the output, guys. So for every value x and y that we have inside our list, which is basically the tuple, I want only x with the value added 3 to it. So for 1 we have 4, for 3 we have 6, and for 5 8, and then for 7 it's 10. I can do it as y plus 3 also, right? Or I can have value like x plus 5 and y plus 2. So this is how you can use star map, guys. It's quite easy, and you don't have to think much. You just have to think of the function that you want to use with the star map, and that's about it. So let's take a look at the next function that we have, which is take while. Now take while is quite interesting, and it's very easy also. Take while is basically the opposite of drop while. So now what happened with drop while, for every value that we had in our output, started with the first false value. Now for this, for take while, let's take a list again with the range 0 to 100 and step, let's take 5. Now we'll use take while, and inside take while there'll be a function. So let's lambda function x for x is less than or greater than 20 a. Now for I in b, print I. We do not have any values because the first value is false. So if x is less than 20, all right, so we have 5 or 4 values, 0, 5, 10 and 15. Now for each value, the output will be taken only for those where the predicate is returning true. It basically prints only those values that return true for the predicate. And when I say it's opposite of drop while, because drop while only shows the output when the function returns false for the first time for the function. And for take while, it only shows the true values, or it shows the values where it first shows true for the first time. Now if we are starting from 0, and if we want to check if it's greater than 20 or not, the only value that will be true will start from 20, but we will not reach there only. So if I want to the values from 0, let's say it's greater than -1, I have all the values. And if I write it as greater than equal to 0, I have all the values. So this is how take while works, guys. The output will only start when the function returns true for the first time. And for it to return true for the first time, it has to start from 0. So instead of greater than, I can write it as, let's say, less than 80. Yes. Or I can write it as less than 50. So that's how we can use take while, guys. It's basically taking values, not dropping them. Now next up we have T, which basically splits the iterable into number of specified iterators, and it also takes 2 arguments. But there is one difference, guys. So okay, I'll just make an iterable first, and now I'll have to create an iterator from it, because I'm going to pass only the iterator in my T function. So when I call T, I will pass my iterator and the number of copies or number of splits I want from T. So for I in B, I'm going to print I. So we have iterator objects, guys. So to get the values from these iterators, what I'll do is, let's try to print it using the list constructor, and there you have it, the 5 list. So this is how I just split my iterator into 5 different lists. Now this is all about the T method that we have. Now last but not the least, we have zip longest for this particular category. So zip longest prints all the alternative sequence with the specified iterables, and the remaining values are filled with the fill value parameter. So I'll just explain how it works. So let me create all right, and for B we'll have a bunch of even values. Yes. Now what I'll do is I'll create a zip longest iterator, pass my A and B over here, and the fill value, of course, which is equal to 10. Now no errors. So for I in range, not range, for I in C, we will print I. So now you'll see the output. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, and 10. So what happened here is we had 2 iterables, one with 5 values, one with 4 values. So we needed one more to complete the tuple. That's where we use the fill value. So give you a perspective, like instead of 10, it could have been anything. Like I could write anything over here which will be filled with, all these missing values. So the first element is 1, 2, then 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and the missing value is 10. And that's how we use the zip longest. Now there is one more function in this category, which is group by. It's a little complicated. I'll explain you guys. So let's say I have a bunch of values here. Okay, 4 tuples. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Right. And let's get a function key. So lambda x, and I could write anything at all, guys. So let's say I want it to be the key to be 1. All right. Now I will create an iterator using group by a and function key. Now when I'll explain you why I'm doing this. For I in b, we will print I and a list of, okay, wait a second, guys, because we'll have 2 parameters. So the function is basically for deciding what key is going to be there. So for all the values that are over here, I'm using the function key, and they're grouped together in a list using group by method. And that's how we use the group by function, guys. And now the third category will come, which is combinations. Basically it's nothing but a bunch of methods like product. So we have product, where I can just specify a b c d and repeat is equal to 2. So this is my iterator, and I can just for I in a, print a or print I. So this is how I'm going to get the Cartesian product using the product method. And similarly, I can have permutations where, let's say, b, c, and 2, and for I in a, print I. So I'm getting the permutations like this. Similarly, I can get combinations ABC, and okay, for I in a, print I. Now this combinations is a little different. It does not have any replacements. So to do that, we have combinations with replacement, which is a very good thing. This is something that I really find interesting. And with this, for I in a, print I. So we have replacements as well. So now we have discussed all the methods associated with Itertools. Now for more details, you can check out the official documentation. And since we have come to the end of the session, guys, if you have any questions, you can mention them in the comment section below. We'll be happy to get back to you as soon as possible. And if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe to Edureka for more exciting tutorials, and press the bell icon to get the latest updates on Edureka. And do check out Edureka's Python programming certification program. The link is given in the description box below. Thank you and happy learning.
I hope you have enjoyed listening to this video. Please be kind enough to like it, and you can comment any of your doubts and queries, and we will reply them at the earliest. Do look out for more videos in our playlist and subscribe to Edureka channel to learn more. Happy learning!